Just put my headphones in. Like. Okay, let's turn the noise suppression off. All right, all right. Oh, let's turn on standard. Okay, okay. Oh, let's turn on standard. Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, you're not coming up to speak, you fuck. Okay, don't know what the fuck that was all about. Yo, is my mic on?
Hello.
Hey, what's up, man?
All good. Bit nervous, but I think it's going to be fine.
Totally. What do you want me to call you? I probably should ask. I don't know how to pronounce your name.
Zetetic.
Zetetic? Zetetic? Is that what you said?
Yes, the last one, yeah.
Zetetic. Okay, cool. That's a cool name. I've never heard that.
Thanks.
Zetetic. Zetetic. Okay, cool, cool, cool. Oh, is it? Okay, that's cool.
So who's starting?
I mean, I can start if you want.
Sure.
I mean, if you want. I mean, if you think it'd be more advantageous for me to respond to your criticisms first, but yeah, I can start, and we can either. I mean, I assumed we'd. Yeah, I mean, yeah, whatever works. I mean, I can start if that works for you.
Yeah, I mean, you can start and then I can respond, and then you can start cross-examination, I guess, if you want. Or should I start cross-examinations first, or?
Yeah, I mean, what I have here is I have a positive case for why I think government is necessary, and then I have like a brief analysis of Child's argument and where I think it goes wrong. I didn't tailor my opening towards any other arguments. I'm sure we can talk about those and they'll come up, but yeah, I can just give my opening and then you can give your opening, and then we can get right into we can just kind of see what happens from there. You can probably start out by asking your questions. And
sure.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Are you good to start? You ready? I know you said you wanted to record. Are you recording already?
Yeah, I'm recording on YouTube.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay, Nate. Yeah, I mean, I'll go first. So, yeah, I'm going to be defending the proposition that government is necessary. Just for some context, I am a student of objectivism. I like Ayn Rand's ideas, and the argument that I'll be defending is not a Divinityy original. It's the argument from Ayn Rand and developed by the objectivist scholarship, namely Greg Salameri and Harry Benswinger. So it's not like this is a Divinityy exclusive. This is something I've been taught. Here's the context. So going into political philosophy, you start out with this ethical context. And the ethical context is that there's a certain kind of life that you should live, and that life is a life where you pursue your happiness through the use of reason. That to the best of your ability, you try to integrate facts into principles and act according to them, go out, pursue values. And the way that you do that is applying your mind to these particular problems that you have and forming desires and wants, and then going and achieving your wants and continuing that cycle. Okay, so it's the application of your judgment to your problems. That's the essence of human survival, is the use of your reason applied to reality. So then there's this question of how that there's other people that exist, and in what way should you understand them, evaluate them, and relate to them? Because that's chosen. That's an evaluatable fact, is how you relate to other people. And the idea is that human beings can organize into a bunch of different ways. We can organize in ways where we all help each other. We can organize in ways where we, hurt some people, don't hurt other people, where we just like completely hate each other, fight each other. And the idea is that what we have to identify under what conditions a society is valuable to us. Because if a society is formed in a particular way, if it's a certain kind of society, it's not something that you should pursue. And putting it the point positively, what is the kind of society that is actually valuable to human life, and what are the requirements to sustain it? And the fundamental insight that you need to take into the political question is the fact that force is on principle against the use of reason. So when physical force, the initiation of physical force, is utilized against you, it makes reason ineffectacious. It makes it so that the conditions and processes and methods that you would utilize and the goals that you would utilize to sustain your life as a human being are no longer things that actually sustain your life. It makes the environment in which human beings could live non-existent. It makes it an inhospitable environment. The use of force, yeah, like I said, it makes life inhospitable. Given that, it's important to understand like what exactly force is, like all the dimensions of force. Like obviously, if I put you in a cage or I restrict you, direct usages of physical force make it so that you can't produce, etc. But there's also indirect uses of physical force other than contact. So, for example, theft. Like if I go and I produce something and I'm not able to utilize the thing that I've produced, I no longer can live my life. Right? This indirect use of force is something that makes it so that my life is impossible. It makes my reason affectatious because it separates the effect from the cause. Similarly, with threats, there's an epistemological, psychological dimension to the use of force, where if I threaten you with the use of force, it makes it such that now you're having to contemplate this alternative where you can no longer, right? These things that are normally, like I said, affectatious for you are no longer affectatious if you go along with them. And that includes this action that Greg calls menacing. Menacing is, take for example, like you're in a lecture and I just like start going up, like I just start aping out, going crazy, acting, beastly, right? I'm threatening you in a way. I'm putting you in danger. Like are you reasonably using objective epistemological principles, you would think that you would fear for your life in some sense. And so this concept of menacing, when you understand it through a proper epistemological evaluation, you understand is also a kind of force. It can be unintentional. Like if you're just, freaking the fuck out. Of course, that might be intentional, but if let's say it's nighttime, and you're like, walking around with like a gun and like, you're doing these things that would be, objectively indicative of you might be causing harm, even though you might be unintentionally doing something that's in fact threatening me. That makes it so that it's inconsistent with the requirements of my life. Even if your prerogative is correct, like even if, let's suppose, somebody goes and they like stole your shit and you're like getting it back and you're doing this Black Ops mission where you like invaded their house. And like your neighbor sees you like invading this person's house. Your prerogative is right. You might, this person stole. You have objective evidence of that. You know what you're going to punish them with. But despite the fact that your prerogative is actually morally correct, it in fact still constitutes menacing towards outside third parties. Okay, so the point is that force has a physical and a psychological dimension, and the result of that is that the removal of the initiation of force includes both the physical and mental security, that we just established in the proper context, from force. Like you need to be physically and mentally secure. Mentally, I'm being understood, under the proper epistemological evaluations, secure from force. Now, there's also a dimension of force that you have to understand that retaliatory force is necessary when force is used on you. Like if somebody utilizes force to hurt your life, the only way you can respond to them is with force. And this is because force is inherently monopolistic. Like when somebody utilizes force, the only way you can do that is by overcoming force. And so when then getting into the principles of political philosophy, you have the purpose of a political principle, which I'll call individual rights, is to define and sanction the usage of force and freedom of each person's action in such a way where the usage of initiatory force and all the different ways we listed is removed, but the usage of retaliatory force is still retained. Okay, and so here's three things that I observe as the conditions of a free society, a society where the initiation of physical force is removed. The first one is objective law. So the law and the policies that are upheld utilizing force have to be predictable. Procedure and laws have to be clearly defined. There needs to be a level of clarity, and they need to be enduring. Right? They can't like randomly change based on somebody's whims. The reason why is the alternative to that is you can't eliminate menacing. Right? If the laws were unpredictable, if they weren't clear, if you couldn't predict them, if they changed moment to moment, then that in fact constitutes menacing because you can't, maintain a certain idea or confidence in the idea of what the expectations of the use of force are on your site, which of course is kind of menacing. The second requirement is that you have to have a kind of influence on the enforcement of the use of force. This is like kind of the democratic clause. And the alternative is because if force was completely out of your hands, then it would be solely based on other people's whims. Like you are entirely at the mercy of other people, which of course, harms the conditions required for you to live, right? And third is that it requires a peaceful resolution to the competitions of force. And this is because force by its very nature is inherently monopolistic. If there's like a competition of institutions that are trying to regulate the usage of force, by their very nature, one of them has to be menacing. because I mean both can't be retaliatory. You can't have two competitive forces simultaneously be retaliatory if the context is them two competing. So the problem is that anarchy structurally builds in this initiation of force, which of course is the thing that has to be removed from a free society. And so the conclusion is that the only kind of social system which is compatible with the requirements of free society is the proper government outlined in Virtue of Selfishness, because it territorializes. It has a territorial monopoly on the usage of force. And what that does is it establishes the predictability, the objectivity, and the clarity of the law. It makes it so that you have democratic influence over the law, and you have a say in what happens. And it makes it such that if there's a difference, if there's a disagreement about what the usage of force should be, it's not built into the system that there's a competition among the people, or that there's a threat of competition among the people. It's in fact such that, okay, there's a disagreement, and it's built in that it's resolved through peaceful means, through voting and all the persuasive processes that go on in a democratic government. So that's the basic need for government. That's a reason why it's required to objectively secure and implement individual rights. Really quickly, wrapping up the opening with commentary on what Ray has to say, Ray Childs, in his open letter. A quote from Ray. The essence of his argument is that any proper government, like according to the objectives definition, a proper government is either going to be coercive or it's actually just not going to be a government. And I'll quote from him. He says this. He says, "Now there are only two possible kinds of monopolies: a coercive monopoly, which initiates force to keep its monopoly, or a non-coercive monopoly, which is always open to competition. In an objectivist society, the government is not open to competition and hence is a coercive monopoly." And the reason he says this is because he thinks that people are well within their right to privately organize and utilize force in a governing capacity, right? But the dichotomy is false. And the reason the dichotomy is false is because it presupposes that people have the right to privately organize and utilize force to compete against a proper government. If a government is following the conditions that were just outlined, then it's the case that if you're threatening the existence of an institution, you're threatening the monopoly and the security that the institution is giving, then that they are in fact the aggressors. And so it's not true that the government is either initiatory or it's not a government. It's false. There's a third option, which is that in fact the government secures its monopoly retaliatorily, assuming that it's proper. An important qualification is that private security is not performing the same essential function as government. Like having a bodyguard is not the same thing as having a judge, an organization which can like go and invade people's houses against their will if there's objective evidence demonstrating that they've stolen something from you, right? Like if I say you can use extreme measures, if somebody uses extreme measures against me, like I have a bodyguard next to me, that's fine. But if I, task these people to go invade somebody's house because I have evidence that they've stolen something from me, then that is constituting a violation of individual rights because it's threatening the legitimacy of the proper government. So that's my opening. If you want to go ahead and give yours.
Nice. Okay. So to hold that one ought not initiate force and that one can use force against force initiators implies that government cannot initiate force against competitors that provide the same service of stopping force initiators. Conceptually, government has to be a force initiator in order to stop force initiation, which is self-defeating.
Wait, sorry, I'm sorry. I got a call. Can you restart really quickly? Sorry, I just got a call. Can you restart really quickly?
No problem.
I apologize.
To hold that one ought not initiate force and that one can use force against force initiators implies that government cannot initiate force against competitors that provide the same service of stopping force initiators. Conceptually, government has to be a force initiator in order to stop force initiation, which is self-defeating. I will frame the debate in terms of force initiation on the Randian terms, because I know that is sufficient to prove that government is not necessary. That's my opening statement.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah. If you just want to go ahead and start with your questions, that works for me.
Sure. Right. So coercive. What does coercive meaning? Is that initiation of force?
Yeah. The term coercive, I introduced it because that's the term that Childs used. But I'll use the term coercion to mean an initiation of physical force.
Okay. So the role of the government is to stop initiation of force.
Yeah,
right?
It's to remove the initiation of force.
But it's using initiation of force itself.
No, the government's not initiating force when it stops people competing against the government.
You just said it's coercive.
I didn't say the government's coercive. I said that the usage...
You said a proper government has to be coercive. You said coercive means initiation of force. And you said
No, I didn't say government has to be coercive. I didn't say government has to be coercive.
You actually said that. You actually said that. We can have recorded it. We have it on tape.
Yeah, I quoted. Yeah, I quoted Childs to say this is his dichotomy. Like, I'm quoting the person who says there's a dichotomy where governments are either coercive or they're not governments. And then I said that dichotomy was false.
Oh,
so
okay.
I was not claiming that governments are coercive. I was saying that the person that motivates your view thinks that, and their view is wrong because there's a third option, which is that the government is responding retaliatorily to an initiation of force from a private organization of people that are trying to compete against the government.
Okay, so a private organization, how are they initiating force by competing with government?
They're violating they're violating individual rights, and they're initiating force because the private organization of force constitutes menacing. That's why.
It can constitute menacing being a subset of threats, right? And threats being a type of initiation of force.
Yeah, menacing is a kind of threat. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so how is it is initiated the government or people or both?
Against the people.
Okay. Isn't government doing that too? What's the difference there?
Well, the difference is that the government, when it's territorial... Well, this actually gets into the second condition of free society, saying what's the issue in there being a competition? The issue in the competition is the fact that in order to evaluate society, right, if you're sanction the fact that there's a competition of force built into the system, then you're structurally building in an initiation of force, because obviously both forces can't be retaliatory, right? So the fact that you're competing against the government, which secures...
I think you're equating like competition as in they have to like use the defense agencies or whatever have to compete with force against each other, like use force against each other. No, what the goal is to protect individuals from people initiating force against them.
That's assuming a goal. That's assuming the goal. The point is how do you...
that's what you're doing with government too. You're assuming the government is doing this.
Yeah, but the difference is that the advocacy for the goal of government is that in establishing the goal of government, I'm not structurally building in the system allowing for a difference of goals and a difference of the usage of force, where necessarily somebody is getting wronged.
Okay, so for a one
like in
world
cases
government,
of disagreement.
Are you for a one world government?
No, I'm for territorial restrictions on government.
Okay, so how is your position different?
Because the territorial monopoly on... Because force is also localized. There's a territorial monopoly on force. Like the fact that the government exists in the United States and that it's localized to the United States, it's not menacing to people in China because the government doesn't operate in China.
How do you ensure that all governments will like abide by the same philosophical principles, on your view? And how's that different?
How do I ensure that government?
Yeah.
My point is not that... Look, my point is not that there are evil people in anarchy. Like, in fact, everybody could just be really good people in anarchy. But it doesn't matter if everybody's a really good person, because, like I said, even if your prerogative is correct, the fact that you are going around and utilizing violence in a way that is not predictable, not common, and is not established under these, these held certain objective principles, that in fact constitutes menacing, that constitutes a threat. It's like, if, for example, if you knew with certainty...
You're just saying it is not predictable. Like, why? If people demand... If people demand that...
It's private?
Listen, if people demand a stable, predictable defense agency, that's what the market is going to provide. Why would that be different from any service, any other service?
Like I said, there's three conditions for free society, and every time you try to meet one of the conditions. In anarchy, you're in fact not meeting another condition. So in an anarchist society, right, if there's a disagreement about the proper usage of force, it's structurally built in that somebody is wronged. You understand that? Like it is necessary by that system that somebody is at the end of an institution who is utilizing force in an improper way. And in order to resolve that, there is no peaceful means of conflict resolution of that. Right? You just have to hope
what
that
do you
the
mean?
people
Like,
doing the bad things
okay,
change their mind.
hypothetically, in an anarchist society, if nobody, let's say, like, everyone was virtuous, why would anyone do initiate force then? Like, you don't need government in that case if everyone is literally
You
morally
still
perfect.
need government even if everybody's doing even if everyone's doing the right thing. I've already explained to you why.
Oh, so what?
Because
Can
if you decide, well, obviously, if it's the case that if you're stipulating that nobody will ever initiate force, of course, but that's not how human knowledge works. Like, yeah, like people,
but you're
you don't
saying
have knowledge that people
you're
determine.
saying necessarily that anarchy builds in that people have to initiate force or something.
By their nature, yeah, because of the fact that disagreements. Okay, if you have two people who have disagreements, or you have two institutions of force who have disagreements, necessarily somebody is being wronged here because there's a disagreement. They can't both be right.
Okay, so like in your paradigm, there might be an individual in one country and an individual in another country, and they have an international dispute.
There's not an international dispute.
Sorry, what?
No, that's wrong. The governments are localized. They're not competing.
Right, but someone can steal from someone else in another country. That's possible. Let's say both countries have open borders or no borders.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's why the jurisdiction of the law is territorial. It's already solved.
Okay.
I just also think the way we're talking about this is like rather unproductive. So I just want to make sure, let's just clarify this way. You don't disagree with the fact that force is anti-reason, right?
I don't disagree with that. That's what I'm working from to get to anarchy.
So you agree that both direct and indirect usages of force, including threat, theft, and menacing, like those are all types of initiatory force.
Yeah, basically. I've not heard of menacing before, but it seems to just go under threats, basically. So yeah, I completely agree with that.
So then if we go into the conditions of a free society, and we understand that the removal of physical force requires removing that has psychological and physical dimensions. Right? Like you cannot live in a free society is not a society where you are, for good reason, have an anxiety or are under constant threat of, what kind of force is going to be utilized on me. Like it's not a free society.
Right, and that depends on like the philosophy of today, and what people, if your neighbors are full of.
Well, it's not just dependent on the philosophy of the day. It's particularly dependent on the institutions of force and their procedures. That's right. Like it's true that it depends
arises
on that.
Naturally. Like if people are virtuous, I think that arises naturally from demand. Supply and demand.
But the point though. This is the point. So let's just make sure we agree on these conditions of free society. So we agree that a free society needs a predictable law and procedure that needs to be clear and needs to endure.
Sure.
Do we agree with that?
Exactly.
Okay, awesome. We agree that individuals have to have influence over the enforcement and utilization of force. Because if they didn't, then in fact the usage of force would be entirely out of their hands.
Yeah, exactly. That's very anarchist, actually. If the individuals are allowed to retaliate, what do you need government for?
So then, third point here. Okay, if you also require a peaceful resolution to the conflict of the usages of force.
Yes, you have to end basically the conflict, you could say, or the force initiation by stopping.
Right. So if I have somebody who does something, and they do something that, according to private defense agency A, is okay, and private defense agency B is not okay. You understand that there's a competition in the utilization of force here.
Yeah, and at least one of them is wrong. Like, and that's
okay. So then
government too. Like, that's a mirror. Like the same thing can apply to you, and you can see like government
I'm
now
talking
are not
about
virtuous.
The principle. Hold on, I just want to clarify the principle before we start making analysis.
Right.
So given that we agree that force is inherently monopolistic, okay, by the very nature, one of those is wrong. The only way you could have a society, the only way in which you could have a society, you could actually not only way you could have one, the only way in which you could guarantee that a society does not have initiatory force is to structurally build out the competition of the usage of force, because a competition of the usage of force necessitates initiation.
By centrally planning it?
Yep. A territory by monopolizing it.
Okay.
The only way you could secure the non-initiation of force is by eliminating the possibility for a competition in the usage of force.
That doesn't make any sense, because like, let's say this structure is in place, but then suddenly or over time, you could say, people start becoming vicious. Is it still guaranteed? Is it still guaranteed?
That doesn't have anything to do with what I just said.
Really? You said like you want to guarantee.
It's presupposed in both societies, right? They're self-sustained. Like societies are self-sustained. I'm not disagreeing with you there. The point I'm making is that when you're evaluating systems using political principles, if the goal of political philosophy is the removal of the initiation of physical force, right? Yeah. Then the only way in which you could secure the removal of the initiation of force, right?
Eliminate it as a possibility. As you say. You have to initiate force against competition.
I don't say to initiate force. It means to monopolize force. I didn't say you should initiate force. I think the government's use of force against private militias is retaliatory. I already told you it's not initiatory. You're saying it's retaliatory.
How is that retaliatory? How is that retaliatory?
Because threatening the legitimacy and security of a proper government violates the rights of the people.
How?
Because it's a kind of menacing, and you're building structurally into the system an initiation of force. You're building structurally into the system competition.
How is it a threat?
Because you're building in competition. Because you're structurally building in competition to the society you're advocating for.
You aren't going to any fundamental here. You're saying it's competition.
I told you the fundamental.
Like that's exactly the same thing with like other industries. I told you the fundamental. Like let's say
I told you the fundamental.
No,
I told you no, it's not the same, because the steel industry is productive. Force is not productive. Force is essentially destructive.
No,
force is productive.
Yes.
What does force produce?
When used in retaliation, is productive.
Name one thing. No, name one thing force has ever produced.
Defense. Like that's why we use guns.
Defense is not defense is not productive. Defense eliminates a destruction. That's not a kind of production. Like when you give a robber your money, you do not produce safety. You just eliminated harm. You didn't produce anything. Right. But the difference is that in the economy, in a market, you produce things, and the competition is of production, right? Force is essentially different, and that force is inherently destructive. And so when people organize utilizing force and they compete, necessarily somebody is wronged. Somebody is wrong.
I just see it as a double negative. There's a negative occurring, and then you're providing the solution to the problem. Like that's actually what you said in your opening statement. Like what we're doing, what ethics is for, is like solving problems, and this is a problem, and that's why
the problem is that you can't have initiate. The problem is that society needs the initiation of physical force removed, right? And the solution to the need to remove the initiation of physical force is to eliminate on a structural level the possibility for there to be an initiation of force.
I think
which
that's
includes
impossible.
eliminating the competition.
That's entirely like utopian in a bad way. Like that's impossible.
What do you mean?
Yeah, because
what fact of reality does it contradict?
Yeah, the scarcity basically. Like you can always have the possibility of initiating first. I'm
talking about structurally. You are structurally building in. Like is it necessary that people Is it necessary that we allow people to utilize force in a private way? No, it's of course not necessary. So then the alternative is not impossible.
You're missing.
I'm not missing the point. I just told you. No, you're missing the point. I've already told you.
Yes, you are. So basically, like I can go punch someone living with me. Basically, like you can't possibly make a structure such that when I meet people, I can't just. I mean, I can go apeshit like physically. I can't do it.
You just change the context. Yeah, you just equivocated the context
You
of the
said it should be
evaluation. Yes, you
impossible.
did.
You said you should create a system
It
that
should be structured.
guarantees
Yes. Yeah, I'm speaking structurally. Yes, I'm
to
speaking
initiate first.
politically.
Yeah,
I'm speaking politically.
what do you mean then?
The government is impossible metaphysically for the government to make decisions for people, right? This is in fact why you need government, because you can't make decisions for people who decide to do bad things. You need to combat force with force, right? And if we agree that you should remove
private defense agencies can do the same thing.
Hold on.
Okay.
No, they can't, because they violate the conditions. I just told you they violate the conditions of free society.
Yeah,
you're not engaging with that. So I want you to focus. I have justification. Do you remember the justification that I gave you?
You're just going in circles. You haven't reduced it to any
what was the justification? I actually told you the justification. Yes, I have. What was the justification? Do you remember the argument I gave you for this condition?
To be honest, no.
Okay, so then don't say that I didn't give you it when you just do not recall the content of the conversation. What I told you is that the condition of a free society, one of the conditions, is that structurally, competition of force is inherently against individual rights, because it inherently necessitates initiation. Competitions necessitate elimination, because not everybody can be correct, right? Which means the only society, right, that can rule out on a structural level the possibility of the initiation of force is a monopoly, because only a monopoly can eliminate competition, and competition is inherently initiatory.
I think you're like misunderstanding what competition actually means. It doesn't mean that they are fighting against each other. Like it just means they are trying to provide a better service, at a better price, and a better quality. Basically,
that is not. Yeah, it's not. This is. I've already told you this.
And that's impossible with government, basically.
The usage of force. Stop. Okay. The usage of force is not productive. They're not providing. Force doesn't provide a service.
Okay, so why do you have government? Like, it's not even productive. What you're saying.
I just told you why.
So using force is productive then?
To combat force.
Oh yeah. So it is productive. That's what you said.
Produce? What does force produce? Name me one thing that has been produced by the usage of force.
It solves problems created by other humans.
That's not the same thing as product. That's not what productivity is. You presumably, I know you're not dropping this context, right? The elimination of a threat is not an act of production. You don't believe that, right?
I would say so. I mean, that's what you say. Like,
you think that
ethics
you think that stopping a threat is productive? What's being made?
You're producing, I guess.
So if somebody points a gun to you and they demand money from you, and you give them your money, you think you're producing a value?
Wait, if someone is robbing you, sorry, I didn't pay attention there. Sorry.
If somebody's robbing you and they demand money from you and you give them money, do you think that you produce something?
No, because you're
it's
under
not
duress.
Productive.
I mean,
right.
Oh, okay.
Right. You haven't produced anything.
You have two options there. Okay. You have two options there. You can either choose to be shot, or you can choose to be stolen.
Yeah, this is why force is immoral. This is why force is immoral, because there's no moral option.
Agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Okay. So
but
and so the point is that force is.
Right. The point isn't that the force is moral. The point is that the right thing to do there is to do what will make you not get killed.
They're both wrong. Yeah, I don't think you understand. Both. The reason why the initiation of force is immoral on an objectivist paradigm is because force leaves you with no good option. The criminal does not deserve your money.
I mean, of course it doesn't.
In order to.
Of course it doesn't. But
right. So if you give it, I know. So if you give the criminal, and if you give the criminal your money, you are acting unjust. You're doing something immoral if you give the criminal your money.
I am doing something.
The criminal doesn't deserve your money.
Yeah, it doesn't. But
yes.
I'm gonna die if I don't. If I don't do it.
I know. I'm not. I know. I'm telling you, this is why force is immoral, because it leaves you with no moral option.
You're saying
one option is better than the other option.
So you're saying the force initiator makes it so that other people who are otherwise moral become immoral because they did something immoral to them.
Yeah, they're left with no moral. Yeah, they're left with no moral options. That's exactly what I said. That the usage
of
force.
Stupid.
Do you know something I don't, bro? If I make it such that your means of survival, right, is ineffectacious, then in fact you are left with no good options. That's why force is immoral.
It doesn't.
If you could live a perfectly fucking moral If you could live a perfectly moral life if people initiated force against you, then why is it bad?
I mean, I don't see how it's related in that sense.
The reason it's related is that the reason why force needs to be removed is because the usage of force makes moral life impossible, which is why individual rights are characterized by Ayn Rand as the moral requirements of living in society. Okay, that's why she calls it that, because the usage of force makes it so that living as a human being, living morally, is impossible. Okay,
I think it makes it harder.
This goes back to the point we're talking about.
It makes incentives
it harder.
It makes like short term.
It makes it harder.
Yes, it makes it hard. It like if you live in
That's
a moral.
That's not just what it does. It makes it impossible.
Listen. If you live in a moral society where everyone's virtuous and it's easy to be productive, it's easier to be productive and moral. But if everyone is starting to steal from you and all that, it's easier to fall into basically being a cunning, evil person and engaging in their city game, even though it's not good for you. But like it's
not good for you.
Yeah, it's definitely not good for you to be.
So that makes it immoral, right?
Yes, it makes it immoral to be evil.
Yeah.
But the context which you presented, the hypothetical you presented, there's nothing that you did wrong there. And
I agree.
Yeah, because something being wrong or right, it means like the choice, right?
Yeah, I know. That's why the initiation of force makes morality impossible, and it's why the evaluation of your decisions whenever you're acting morally,
I would say
there's a degree of amorality.
There is a choice there. There is a choice there, even though like both. Yeah. But the thing is that makes
both the choices are bad.
The thing that makes it good and bad is an ordinal ranking, basically. Not ordinal.
The standard,
like in ranking, basically, a preference ranking, basically.
No, the standard for morality.
One is better than the other. That's what you're identifying there. There.
It is true that one is better for you and one is worse for you, but the point is that both of them are bad. That's the point.
That doesn't make any sense.
Something can be more
because
bad.
You're morally. I mean, you're saying that person.
What doesn't make sense about that?
You're saying like I'm so like. I don't know how to start really, because like you
both things can be bad and one thing both things can be bad and one thing be bad to a higher degree.
No, I mean
like 100%. Do you think that stealing candy from grandma is just as bad as assaulting grandma?
I think it's impossible to have like a state where all your possible actions are bad. That just breaks down everything logically.
What? Right now I'm talking about the nature of force and why the removal of force is necessary.
You're morally condemning him for having. That's stupid. You're morally condemning.
I didn't say I was condemning someone. Okay, you must know something I don't, because I didn't say that.
Yes, because you're saying him giving him
money
is bad.
No.
That would mean
that doesn't mean just because an action is bad does not mean that you are culpable for the action.
What?
Yes. This is why children can do something objectively harmful towards their life, right? And it'd be bad, but them not be morally they're not culpable for it.
Right? Yeah, because they don't have a guilty mind. They don't have like there is a different
similarly,
with a human not fully developed.
It's the exact same way. It's the exact same way, because in a context in which somebody is initiating force, okay, instead of the restrictor for them making the correct decision being their own nature, the restrictor for them making the correct decision is other people's usage of force. And the usage of force against you makes it such that each action that you could perform in the situation is not good. They're both bad options. Now, one is more bad, but they're both bad. One is more destructive than the other action, but they're both, in fact, bad. And that's why initiations of force are immoral, because they make a moral life impossible to the degree that force is utilized on you. This point was relevant. We already granted this point, so I don't know why we're on it. The reason we even got to this, and we had to go back to this fundamental point, is that if we agree that society, in order to be consistent with the requirements of human survival in the social context, needs to remove force, right? Then we have to agree that force, because it's inherently monopolistic, competition is inherently necessitating an initiator. Competition necessitates an initiator.
No.
What do you mean? How can you? Competitions of force are inherently monopolistic.
Like it's basically like they are the institutions, right? And let's say there's no force being initiated, then they just they don't get. Well, they just get the payment for the subscriptions, but they are not having to actually stop any force because nobody is initiating force.
I already gave you the response to this. I don't know what this supposed to respond to.
Okay, whatever.
I mean, do I need to like lay? I mean, I can lay it out like syllogistically if that's what needs to happen.
Okay, sure, you can do that. I'll write it down.
Okay, premise 1. Oh, let's see how I want to frame this. Premise 1: force is inherently monopolistic.
Sure.
Okay, premise 2: if force is inherently monopolistic, then competitions of force necessitate initiatory force.
Then competition initiates.
Huh?
Sorry, no, you said if force is inherently monopolistic, then competition is initiatory force?
Then competition and force necessitates initiatory force.
Okay. Premise 1: force is inherently monopolistic. Premise 2: if force is inherently monopolistic, then competition in force is initiatory force. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, premise 3.
Okay.
Okay, premise 3 is that if the goal is to, actually, I'll frame it this way. Free society requires the removal of initiatory force.
Yeah.
Okay, and the conclusion would be that free society requires having no force in competition. Kind of a really rough syllogism. It's not really formal, but it's close enough.
Okay, I have a disagreement with premise 1, but premise 2, I don't. Okay, so like, I think initiatory force would be inherently monopolistic. So yes, I would disagree with premise 1, I'd say.
Retaliatory force is also inherently monopolistic.
How so?
Because when you're utilizing force against somebody in a retaliatory fashion, what you're doing is you're overcoming, right? You're overcoming their force to the degree that you're utilizing your force. Like, because force is mutually exclusive, retaliatory force is able to eliminate the existence of initiatory force because force is mutually exclusive.
Okay.
If force was not mutually exclusive, then retaliatory force would not do anything to initiatory force.
Okay.
They could coexist, right? So that's the argument for premise 2.
Yeah, but okay, but premise. What? No. How is competition in force necessary? Like.
I mean, they both can't. They both can't be retaliating, right?
Okay, like. Premise 2 doesn't follow. Like the competition in force doesn't necessitate initiatory force. It just necessitates that there is force, and would be retaliatory.
No.
That's what people demand.
How can you have a usage of force? How can you have a competition of force where where both people are retaliators?
Yeah, of course, that doesn't make any sense. I don't know why do you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's the point.
Yeah,
the reason why is premise 2 says that the competition of.
They're not fighting against each other. I don't know where you get this from.
What do you say? There's a competition. Okay.
Yes, there's a competition, but they're not fighting against each other. Like.
Okay. Obviously, REA doesn't go fight REA-B. That's true. Okay, but what REA is doing, what the
REA?
Private Defense, or Rights Enforcement Agency.
Okay.
Okay, or a PDA. I think the Private Defense Agency, whatever, same thing.
Right. Okay.
A PDA, yeah. If you have an institution of force like a PDA, and they say this kind of action is allowed, right? Okay, and then you simultaneously say something along the lines of, you have another institution that says this kind of action is allowed, and it's in disagreement with the other party.
Okay? Yeah, you're presupposing that you have a wrong legal theory there.
But you're saying there's two different institutions.
Yeah, but they can have the same legal theory for that. Even.
Okay, but do you remember how I recall? I mean, this goes back to meeting the other requirement. So the point is like the requirements are entangled in that you have to be able to have influence over the usage of force that's being used on you, right? Or else you're at the whims of other people. But when you just privately hire people to go,
like on my legal theory, you're the one that has the right, but you can delegate the rights basically to a private defense agency.
But look, if somebody's PDA puts you in jail, right? Assume it is for right and proper. I mean, you could assume it's for right and proper reasons. If you don't have any influence over that institution that's putting you in jail for right and proper reasons, you are in fact you're at the whim of these other people.
How is that different from your government?
The difference is that you have influence over the institution which utilizes force.
You do that on a free market too, because you can choose which defense agency to be subscribed
that doesn't mean you can choose but you can't choose the usage of the force. Like in a market anarchist society, you can choose which people you want to protect and fight for you, okay? But you can't control the manner in which the ones that you don't choose fight, right? Similarly, if you live, conversely, if you live in a proper state and you live in a proper government, you control the usage of the force. You directly influence how the force is used. The institution that will affect you and it will affect other people. So in fact, no, when you hire private people to go, invade houses and put people in jail and investigate them, right? Those people are completely at the whims of you, and you're advocating for a society in which people are completely at the whims of what other people say. They have no say of the matter, because the conflicts aren't resolved in a peaceful manner. It's structurally built in to be competitive, and this is what I mean when I say that the competition of force is inherently initiatory. Because what happens when you have a society like this is you have institutions that, I mean, I already explained it. There's nothing to underscore. I mean, it's exactly the way I explained
it. Have some thoughts. So, let's say philosophy, like this is a mostly moral society. They will tend to subscribe, if it's a free market society, they will tend to subscribe to those agencies that are just. Those who are unjust don't get business. So on that level, there will be very little incentive to do.
Are you in favor of it? Are you in favor of an epistocracy?
What is that?
It's the system of government where super enlightened benevolent ruler. Let's assume that Murray Rothbard was a super benevolent enlightened ruler, and he just decided that he's going to control all these private defense agencies that he just has acquired through all the money that he's gotten from all the books and conferences that he's done. He's going to control them to protect everybody's individual rights. Okay, you have no control over the matter. Like, he's going to do it. You have no ability to influence him through means of reason or persuasion. Nothing like that. Like, you're just at the mercy of his force. Do you think that society that I just described is compatible? Do you think that society I described is a free society?
No, but it sounds like yours.
You think that sounds like my society?
Yes, because it would be.
Okay, actually, I'll explain to you why that's not my society.
It would be more like in that case. Actually, it would. I mean, he bought it. Like, but I just
want to clarify. Do you think that's wrong?
Like, the thing is that with this big.
Do you think that's a free society? Do you think that's a free society?
Like, you haven't given that much content. Like, how did it
given what I just said? Is it free? I told you by selling his books.
It depends. It depends.
What about that does it depend on? What would you have to know that you don't know in that from me explaining it about the case and know whether it's a free society or not?
I mean, if he's, I think, okay, actually, sorry. Yeah, I think it would be probably moral. Okay.
You think an epistocracy is a free society?
Yeah, as long as there's anyone to compete with them. Yes. Sorry, I just
no, but No, but the point is that if Murray Rothbard decided to just impose his rule on all of you without consulting any of you, there was no way for you to check him. There was no way to persuade him, right? He just utilized force on you, and you had no influence over. You had no, influence in the matter. Okay.
Yeah, that would be
the only influence that you could have.
Okay. Yeah, that would be stupid for people to subscribe to. I mean,
no.
people
Whether it's stupid for
should
people to subscribe to is not
find a
that's not my point.
difference.
That's not my point. That's not my question. My question is that a free society?
Doesn't sound like it really. I mean,
Why?
because you have no say in the matter, as you say.
Right. And if an organization, right, if there's people who utilize force, they privately organize and they use force on me, and it's not built into the system, it's not built into the society that I can influence them, right? I'm just at the mercy of what they do, what they decide to do with the usage of their force, right? That similarly is not a free society.
Sorry, repeat. My bad.
Yeah, so in the same way that Murray Rothbard's epistocracy is not a free society, is the same reason why private defense agencies are also not a free society, because the usage of force, when it's not able to be influenced, when the enforcement of the policies are not able to be influenced by the people who the force is used against and who it actually governs, that violates the requirements of freedom. You're completely at the whims of other people.
Yeah, but like the thing is also like the people who subscribe to those agencies, they have the right to stop.
No, we're not talking about no. If you are put in jail by a private defense agency, you don't have to be subscribed to them. Whether you're subscribed to them or not, they're putting you in jail.
Okay. Yeah, but
right.
Yeah, I mean, if they put you in jail without trial, that would not be proper.
No, I didn't say without. No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if there's a trial or not.
Okay.
The point is that the actual policies and procedures and all these different things, you don't have any influence over them. They're just forced on you.
I mean, I don't see why. Like if it's a proper trial, like I don't see the issue. Like that's.
You just said that there was a problem with Murray Rothbard's epistocracy. You said it was because you can't have control over the way the force is used.
Yeah, because that's what you said. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing for private defense. You don't have control over the way the force is used.
Well, yeah, against you. If you do something bad, of course, like you should be punished. You shouldn't be able to be evaded.
Yeah, so it's we agree that there's similarly. We agree that they have this similarity.
I guess if it's epistocracy, it's the same in that respect. Sure, okay.
Right. So for the same reason that the epistocracy is not a free society, neither would private anarchy. Right. Neither would free market anarchism, because there's usages of force that are unable to be unable to be influenced by the people who are being governed by the rule of law.
I mean, that's why we have like private courts or private like arbitrators and such, like, right? Such that you can have an influence and you can present your evidence and all that.
Yeah, but you understand that the ruler could just be like, no, I don't care. The problem with the ruler is precisely because the problem with private organization is precisely because it's private, right? And they don't have to do any of that.
Yeah, and like as a moral person, I would not support that organization. So like if you assume if you assume a society.
No, but the question is whether it's a free society. Yeah, whether they're violating the conditions of free society. Like they're a private organization. They don't answer to anybody. They don't answer to you.
That's how the market works. Like they have customers.
They can. Yeah, exactly. They can, matter of fact, do whatever they want, right? And the only way that you would be able to stop them is to use force against them.
Okay, but then if they are in the wrong,
right,
then you are justified.
So your society.
Then you are justified in using force against them, of course.
Your society is structured in such a way where the only way to deal with evil is by means of force, whereas a proper government is structured in such a way where if the usage of force is improper, it can be dealt with in a peaceful way.
Yeah, right? So that's what the private organization is doing too. It's doing it in a peaceful way. Like
we just established the only way to stop a private defense agency is using force.
Yeah, the same for the government, right? That's what they're doing now. Like
because if governments have a democratic function, right, the means and differences of the usage of force can in fact be stopped by means of persuasion.
If the private organization is subscribed to by moral people, right? Then it would be moral, basically. So yeah.
What are you talking about? That has nothing to do with what I just said.
Okay.
If a private defense agency decides to utilize force in any particular manner it wishes, the only way in which you could stop them from doing that is by utilizing force.
Yes, if they, sure, and the same for government, and yeah.
That's not true.
Yes,
Because in a government, the way that in the government, in a democratic government, the way that the usage of force is changed is through by means of reason and persuasion, not by means of force.
It changes by means of reason and persuasion.
Yeah, that's what the function of the legislature is. Yes, that's exactly what the legislature is for.
I mean,
People don't go in Congress and then hold guns up
too?
and
This kind of
argumentation. What are you talking? The parallel was literally from.
Okay, but let's talk about like the incentives of these defense agencies. Is it in their self-interest to be?
What is the relevant? What is the relevance? What is the relevance to what I just said?
Yeah, because you're saying this like inevitability of them doing initiative.
No, I'm not even. I'm not even talking about inevitable. Yeah, well, the point is that on principle, right? In a way, you're not even. In a way, your society is not even organized. In a way, you don't even have a society. But at a basic level, this kind of society you're advocating for, right? It's built into the system that the only way you're going to have competition, right? That competition is on principle sanctioned. And the fact is, you have no mechanism to remove the usage of force in a conflict between governments, and that's because of government. That's because of the nature of force as monopolistic. And the only way you could remove force while actually acknowledging and recognizing the fact that force is inherently monopolistic is by having an institution of force that is in fact a monopoly and is in fact operating according to proper principles.
I mean, the also like let's talk incentives there. If it's a monopoly, it's easier to basically corrupt because there's one point of failure. But let's say compare that with a free market society with multiple.
That's not true. What?
Okay, but let me just finish. Let's say in a private market with multiple defense agencies, let's say most of them are moral and are acting in the same manner. If one of them, in order to corrupt one of them, basically, in order to like get your way, you had to corrupt like more than half of them, because they can team up. Like if there's
that is literally nothing. That has nothing to do with what I just talked about. That has nothing to do.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That has nothing to do with
I'm
the
sorry.
point.
I'm just tired, man. I guess.
You're good. The point is just the point is just that the reason why government is necessary is because there's 3 conditions for a society, for a free society, just laid out. One of them was objective law. The other one was democratic function. The third one was peaceful conflict resolution among whatever. Okay. Among the usages of force. And in fact, anarchy structurally builds in the competition of force as something which is consistent with the system, right? So built into the system is the sanction of the initiation of force, and that's of course immoral. And you can talk about incentives, it doesn't matter. That has nothing to do with it.
No, like the point is retaliatory for start too. Like it's not initiatory first. They are operating as a defense agency if they are initiating first. Like
I gave you an argument in utilizing premises conclusion form. Right. Premise 1 is obviously true. Premise 1 is clearly true. Premise 2 is the one that you were debatably not convinced of, but we established that it's true. And then obviously you agree with premise 3. So the conclusion would just follow.
Yeah, it requires removal, but it's not possible to completely remove it. That's. I mean,
we're speaking from the perspective of politics.
Yeah, but I don't see what matters.
Because the goal, the standard for politics is not making it impossible for individuals to choose to initiate force.
Okay, sure. Okay. Yeah, I mean it's very important to be able to remove force.
Right. So you're not contending any of the premises, right?
Yeah, I'm still contending premise 2. competition in
Okay.
force necessitate initiatory force. I just can't see the connection really. I'm sorry. Like how
I mean,
it's
I don't know how further more to explain that. I mean, I've already explained the point. The
okay.
fact that there's a competition of force is not. It's not as if the usage of force is a service that operates autonomously of other entities. Like the competition of force is inherently destructive. Is inherently mutually exclusive.
Okay. Like I have some things I wanted to say, but I know I've said it before, and I don't know. You know, I'm sorry. I guess I don't have more to say then.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you can, if you want to give your closing statement,
could we
that's fine.
invite some other speakers? I guess there are more speakers there. Anyone raise their
I mean,
hands? Yes.
if you want to give your closing statement, that's fine.
I don't actually have a closing statement, so.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess thanks for having this conversation. I mean, I feel like I did successfully give you an argument where the conclusion is.
Yeah, I'm just not following. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Bye.